Who is Dr. Aafia Siddiqui and what crime has she committed? Where has the case of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui reached? Would she ever be released?
Hello everyone, welcome to this exclusive interview. I am Shakirullah Wafadar. Today we have the honor of speaking with Dr. Clive Smith, a globally renowned human rights lawyer and advocate for justice and human rights activist. Dr. Smith has spent decades defending individuals whose rights have been violated, particularly those held in Guantanamo Bay and other detention centers around the world. He will discuss the high-profile case of Aafia Siddiqui, Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, and he will also discuss the broader human rights issues involved in this program. Stay with us for this exclusive conversation with Dr. Clive. And welcome to our beautiful country, Afghanistan, and most welcome to our studio.
Well, thank you. It's a great privilege always to be in Afghanistan, now that it belongs to the Afghans again.
Thank you so much. So I would like to start from here. As many people are familiar with Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, and you shared some information about 1 year ago in this program last year. Can you update us any new developments regarding her case and family situation, health situation, and the status of her case? In the past year, have you visited the Texas prison, and what has the progress has been made for that situation?
Okay, well, there are some things that sadly are very much still the same. I have been to see Aafia in the Texas prison, which is called FMC Carswell in Fort Worth, Texas. And it remains quite the most horrible prison in America. I've been to most of the death row prisons, and honestly, it's far worse. And she complains still of being sexually assaulted, of being raped. She's not allowed to see an imam. She has no spiritual solace still. She hasn't been allowed to see a doctor. So all of that has not got any better, and it just accelerates the need for us to get her out of that hellhole. Now, in terms of other things, we have come a long, long way towards getting her out. One of the best things, I mean, first, the CIA and the Pakistan intelligence, the ISI, have for a long time just lied about what happened. And they've lied about whether she was ever kidnapped. I now have, I'm proud to say, a secret recording made of one of the Pakistan intelligence officers who originally arrested her, who boasts about doing it. We've got a statement from another of the people who originally kidnapped her, and he describes how an American female agent slapped Aafia during the detention. I have an ISI, a very senior ISI retired officer, who's told me all about what was going on at the time, and who's told me about the typical disposal program where the ISI was almost certainly behind the attempt to kill Aafia in 2008, rather than have her come back to Pakistan. That's great. On the other side, I've got an American Secret Service agent who's come forward and signed a very powerful affidavit about all the mistakes they made and all the mistakes the ISI made. And I was just in Washington the week before last with another retired CIA agent who is helping us come up with all the evidence of what happened. So I have sent to the New York court everything I've told you, and it's 104,000 words. It's like a big book of what we know so far, but we can't pause. We have to carry on. We've got more that we need to prove. And that's why I'm in Afghanistan today.
Thank you so much. the things which you share with us, it's so sensible. From the perspective of human rights and international law, which specific laws and articles have been violated in Dr. Aafia's imprisonment in Texas prison?
I mean, look, seriously, Shazad, it's easier to say which ones haven't been violated. Because when you think about the fact that this poor woman has been tortured, she's been raped, her children were kidnapped, her children were forcibly adopted.
But Americans also claim that we accept human rights every year. Why Americans do like such kind of things in prison, Guantanamo or like in Texas prisons?
Look, I think since 9/11 we have made some terrible mistakes. We should never have invaded Afghanistan. We should never have invaded Iraq. We should certainly not have taken hundreds of people from this country and taken them to first to Bagram, then to Kandahar, then to Guantanamo. We shouldn't have killed people in Bagram. We killed at least 2 people in Bagram. We killed hundreds of thousands of people in Afghanistan. And we just lost our moral compass at the time 9/11 happened. And, I'm ashamed to say that as an American. And while it wasn't me doing it, I'm going to give you an apology, because frankly, it's the only apology you'll ever get from an American, which is I'm very sorry for what we did to this country that we should never have done. We should never have been coming here in the first place. So that's sad. But instead of spending a lot of time recriminating, I think it's really important for us to move forward and to try to re-establish a sense of human rights, because that's what we all want.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Clive, in your previous interview with our media outlet, you have said that U.S. Army an irreparable mistake regarding Dr. Aafia Siddiqui and Texas prison. So do you still hold that view of today?
I'm even more disappointed in what the US has done now that I've learned more about it. I'm pretty certain I know about 90% of what really happened. And to look at the intelligence or what passes for intelligence, that resulted in Aafia's initial kidnapping is just shocking. It's total rubbish. I mean, one thing they had against her was some plot by Al-Qaeda in West Africa, which they were saying she was involved in, when at the time she was in a hospital in Boston having a scan. And this was one of the reasons that they took her in the first place. So anything I said a year ago, I'd say 5 times more strongly now.
Thank you, Dr. Clive. So I will ask you this question as well, because it's so important regarding Aafia Siddiqui. And Guantanamo and also in Texas, mostly 90% detainees are released from the Texas prisons and Guantanamo Bay as well. So why Aafia Siddiqui is still remaining in Texas prison?
The real issue is Guantanamo Bay. So in Guantanamo, and I've represented 87 of the prisoners in Guantanamo, no one's actually been convicted of anything. They're just held without trial. And we have been able to prove that the evidence on which they were initially detained is all total nonsense. And so far we have freed 665 out of 680 prisoners. That's 98.5%. And we freed them because the US has been forced to admit that their intelligence was nonsense. Now, Aafia is in the same situation. I can now prove her intelligence was nonsense, but she's not in Guantanamo. She's in a federal prison because she was given what passes for a trial. Her trial took place in New York City, not in Ghazni, where anything happened. And it was less than a mile away from Ground Zero, where 9/11 took place. And the idea that Aafia could get a fair trial with jurors who come from the very location where Al-Qaeda flew the planes into the buildings was just crazy. And she had no witnesses. her lawyers had a conflict of interest and were unwilling to point the finger at Pakistan, who were deeply involved in all of this. So she just had a terrible trial, and we've got to overturn that.
Okay. So as you mentioned, Ghazni, have you ever went to Ghazni? Do you have an experience over there?
Oh gosh, yeah, I've been to Ghazni 3 times, and when I first went there, everyone told me no one would remember her, no one would talk to me.
When you went over there?
The first time was 2 years ago. And I went there with this guy, Mohammed Ajmal Mohammadi, who was there, who was a tailor. And within 3 hours, we had 6 witnesses who had signed
How do you
affidavit.
find him?
We just walk around and say, does anyone remember this? And everyone remembered it because Aafia was sitting at an all-men's mosque, the Khalid bin Walid mosque. And she was waiting because she had been promised that if she stayed there, she could have her daughter back and then she could go back to Pakistan. That was a lie. They had set her up as a suicide bomber. And they had her son dressed in a coat with 4 big pockets full of fruit to make him look like a suicide bomber. They'd called in, and I believe this was the Pakistanis who did it. They had caused a telephone call to be made in saying these people are suicide bombers, and they wanted them just to be shot. And the only reason that Aafia was not killed that moment was Mohammadi, who was a tailor who spoke Urdu, was able to communicate with her. And he stood in the way of the guns. I have great admiration for Mohammadi. I think he saved her life that day.
Did you find any other source, other information about Aafia Siddiqui's relatives or other people like that?
Oh, what we have found out. So, for example, in Ghazni, they said that the whole case against her is allegedly that the Americans come into this room and she reaches for an M4 machine gun, flips off the safety catch and tries to shoot them. And they show these 2 holes in the wall. We've got a film from earlier that day that shows the 2 holes in the wall already. And so it's patently clear that she didn't shoot any bullets at all. And yet that's why she's in prison for 86 years in prison. She's
just was rumors.
Well, no, it was lies was what it was. The truth is the American soldier shot her in the stomach before he discovered she was unarmed and just a woman minding her own business. And then they falsified a story, which probably was replicated many times here in Afghanistan, where the Americans realized they'd killed someone who was innocent. They had to make up a story, so they made up this story. That's what happened.
Since our last interview, you have traveled to Pakistan regarding Dr. Aafia's case. What did you learn about her, and why did Pakistan government sold her on American?
Look, the Pakistan government, I'm ashamed to say, is just useless, and they're worse than useless, right? Here I am in Afghanistan, where your government helps me out immensely in trying to achieve justice for a daughter of the Ummah. And yet in Pakistan, Aafia Siddiqui is labeled the daughter of the nation. She's one of their citizens. And not only is the Pakistan government not helping her, they're actively trying to prevent me from doing my job. So on this trip to Afghanistan, I was going to bring Fawzia Siddiqui here, because I think you people need to meet Fawzia and be inspired by her. That's Aafia's sister.
Fawzia Siddiqui is the sister of Aafia Siddiqui.
She's an amazing woman. If you ever are in trouble, you want a sister like Fawzia.
Did you meet with her?
Oh, I've met her many times. And she came to Britain just last week, in fact. But Fawzia was going to come here and meet all of your officials and you know, encourage everyone to do more for her sister, even though Afghanistan has done a lot. So when she was preparing to meet me here, the ISI, and I'm going to say this, I'm certain it's true, they were the ones who sent this guy who pretended to be an Afghan official. I'm sure he's Afghan, but he pretended to be an official, saying you're not welcome in Afghanistan. The Afghan people don't want to help your sister anymore. You shouldn't do any of this. You should go to America and deal with the Americans. And they told her not to come here. Now, what Pakistan's establishment has done to that poor woman, they've dropped dead bodies outside her house. They've taken her off with a hood over her head and threatened her, all because she's standing up for her sister. And I have great admiration for Fawzia, and she's still not going to be intimidated by them. But she couldn't come to Afghanistan on this trip because her own government prevented it. And I think that's disgusting. And her own government has refused to do anything for her. And I've told them straight, right? I know what they did. I can prove what they did. And it's all going in court in New York City. And they have a choice, the ISI does. They can either help me get Aafia out, which we should all want to do, or otherwise they're forcing me to spend 3 weeks in court in America exposing all their lies and calling all these witnesses to testify against them. Now, I hope they make me do that. I would love to do that. I would love nothing better than to expose the ISI, but they're idiots if they do that, and it's just very sad.
Do you have any plan to go again to Pakistan for this case?
Oh yeah, I definitely want to go back to Pakistan. Whether I'm ever going to get a visa again, I don't know.
Would you allow over there from the ISI or Pakistan government to study this case in Pakistan?
I mean, I would love. I've tried to meet with the head of the ISI. I've tried to meet with General, now Field Marshal Asim Munir, just to get them to be sensible. You know, it's their job to protect Aafia, and you know, it's not necessarily the Afghan government's job to protect Aafia, but they're doing it, and I admire that. And the government of Malaysia is helping us. The government of South Africa, the government of Qatar are helping us. The Americans are being reasonable at this point. The only people who are being unreasonable are the Pakistanis. And frankly, I think it's disgusting.
As you met with Dr. Aafia Siddiqui's sister, what are their demands from the America and also from Pakistani government? And could you tell me about specific things, what they want from these two countries, like US Army and also Pakistan government?
So the Americans, I met with the US attorneys in New York, and they're reasonable. And I've shown them a lot of what we have. I haven't shown them everything yet because we're getting more every day. But I think, I've asked them, I said, look, why don't we just agree to let this poor woman go as a matter of compassion? We can either do that on a compassionate level, or you can make me prove that the whole conviction was false, and that'll embarrass everyone. I think it's perfectly reasonable expectation that they will go along with what I'm asking, but it'll take a bit of time. The Pakistan government, all I asked of them was that they should intervene in court with me in support of their national, which every other country does. The British government does it all the time. And they refuse to do that. And they refuse to do that because they think it's going to embarrass the ISI. Well, I tell you, it's going to embarrass the ISI a lot more if they don't agree, because I'm going to embarrass them by just telling the truth.
I will come back to Pakistan government as well. So you recently traveled to Pakistan and investigated the areas where Dr. Aafia lived and moved, her family, her missing child, and other related issues. What did you findings over there?
Well, we know precisely
specific things which you find over there. So could you share with us?
It's all mixed up. It's not just Pakistan. It's Pakistan and America and coming here. But what I've discovered is that Aafia had a very abusive husband who was someone who had been interrogated by the FBI 3 times in America. And he was a person who was quite extreme in his views. When he was threatened by the Americans with arrest, he tried to put it on his wife because they were having a bitter divorce. And one of the things about this guy, Amjad Khan, is that when his 3 children were kidnapped with Aafia, he did nothing to try and get his children back. Far from that, having lost one daughter called Mariam, he went and married another woman and had a daughter and called her Mariam. You know, this guy's just shameful. I'm ashamed of being male. Anyway, we can now prove that on March the 23rd, 2003, the Americans were waterboarding, torturing a guy called Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was meant to be a big name in Al-Qaeda. And they tortured him into making false accusations against 9 people, one of whom was Aafia. We have now proven that 7 of those people were innocent. The 8th was apparently killed by the ISI, disappeared into custody. And there's only one person left, and that's Aafia Siddiqui. And that was false evidence tortured out of this guy. And that's how then the Pakistanis, who had a deal with the Americans would pay money ranging from $5,000 to $20 million. And they paid a reward, the Americans, for Aafia to be turned over. The Pakistanis, President Pervez Musharraf and his henchmen, took the money and turned the daughter of Pakistan over to the CIA, and that was the start of all her torture and nightmare when she was taken to Bagram, and she was tortured in Bagram by the Americans.
It means Pakistan just did those things for money.
Yeah.
And also Aafia Siddiqui, they sold for money as well.
Aafia, it's not just me saying this. Musharraf says in his dreadful book, In the Line of Fire, I think it's page 234, he says that more than half of the prisoners taken by America to Guantanamo and elsewhere were sold by the Pakistan government for money. And that's shameful. It's shameful that anyone would do that, but it's shameful that Pakistan did that to Aafia Siddiqui and now will do nothing to help get her out.
Do you know about the current situation of the Aafia Siddiqui's children?
I know the situation.
They live in...
So Aafia had 3 children, and the oldest, Ahmad, was 6 years old. He was brought here and he was put in juvenile institutions, and his name was changed to Ihsan Ali, and he spent 5 years here. And I desperately want people to come forward who were in those institutions with him, whether they were custodians or whether they were other young boys, because we need to prove that more. We can already prove it. The second child was Mariam. She was age 3. She was brought here to Kabul. She was forcibly adopted into a white Christian American family on the basis that apparently being a white Christian American is better than being a Muslim Pakistani of color. And she spent 7 years. And it was actually Hamid Karzai, to his credit, Hamid Karzai was the one who helped us get Mariam back, and she's back in Karachi. Both of those 2 kids are deeply traumatized by their abuse and also by the threats leveled against them since they came back. But they're doing okay. And now the third child was a kid called Suleiman, who was only 6 months old, and we don't know what happened to him. And I have a plan. I'm not sure whether he was killed or whether he's alive today. And if he's alive today, and if what happened to him is the same as Mariam, he would have been forcibly adopted into an American family. So I've got pictures of what he would look like today. Through AI, we've developed pictures of him at age, 2, at age 7 or 8, at age 12, at age 18, and now he'd be 22. And we're going to splash those all over social media in America in the hopes that some child who looks a bit Pakistani, who doesn't know who his biological parents are, will recognize himself and come forward, and that we'll be able to reunite him with his family here.
How about Aafia Siddiqui's? Does she know about her children, where they live, what are they doing?
Aafia is deeply, deeply traumatized, and she finds it very difficult to talk about her children, because last time she saw them, they were small kids and they were being snatched from her. So she thinks, she's come to the conclusion that surely Suleiman was murdered. Now, I'm not sure she's right, but far be it from me. She's able to at least try to come to some sense of grief. With the other 2 children, she's had no contact with them for a long time. They daren't go to America. They're both American citizens. They got American passports, but they're so afraid of what the United States did to their mother and to them that they don't go there. So Aafia hasn't seen her older children since they were 3 and 6.
Why Americans spend lots of money who's innocent, who doesn't have, it means have crime? Why they just keep in Guantanamo in Texas prisoners?
But the truth is the Americans believe their own fantasies, right? They're not actually sitting there saying, how can I torture an innocent person? They really believe the nonsense they say. And that makes it more difficult.
But they spend lots of money on these things.
Oh, look, for each prisoner in Guantanamo, they were spending $10 million a year to keep them in prison. I had one of my clients write an essay about what he would do with the $10 million if they gave it to him. He said he would double the salaries of the guards. He would gold plate his cell. He would give $1 million to my charity, which I'm very grateful for. And he'd still have $7 million left over. And so they're mad. But they're equally mad, the American government, when they invade this country. We spent $6 trillion invading this country. If we'd just dealt with it the way we should have and given bin Laden a fair trial and given Afghanistan $3 trillion, you guys would all be quite well off at this point. What we did here was just idiotic. But that's the way governments tend to behave.
Mohammed Rahim, who's the last Afghan prisoner in Guantanamo, what progress has been made toward his release? Do you have any information about that?
I do have information about the last Afghan, and Mohammed Rahim, we learned just today publicly, although there have been indications for some time, that he is going to be released as part of a prisoner swap, and he should be on his way. And so I'm so pleased for his family. His family are here in Kabul. I've met with them many times. They're going to be so happy. Now, Mohammed Rahim will have to stay in Qatar for a little while, but his family can go there and visit him, and that'll be great. And then he'll come back here to Afghanistan.
Thank you. We are closing to end. So, as the last question, can the process of prisoner exchange between the US and Afghanistan bring optimism for the release of the last Afghan detainees who was in Guantanamo?
Well, the last Afghan detainee, I think, is coming home as a result of a prisoner swap. There is another person who lived here for a long time, Nashwan, whose family lives here. And I'm hoping we can work out something like that too. And who knows, maybe your government will do what I've been asking the Pakistan government to do, which is a prisoner swap for Aafia Siddiqui. If they do that, I will be eternally grateful to them. So yeah, these things happen. And Donald Trump is a businessman. Donald Trump will do deals. And you know, in some ways it's easier to get him to do the right thing than the Democrats.
As the last question, how do you see Afghanistan's relation with US in these days, not in this?
Well, I think we have a long way to go for Afghanistan. The fact that your country is still represented in the UN by the previous government is insane. The American government has stolen $7 billion of your dollars. And, you know, I've been making an offer to the Afghan government, which I'll repeat here, which is, I'm ashamed that our country has done that. I'm willing to help represent this country for free. I never charge anyone to get your money back, because I think if we gave you your $7 billion back, that would help the economy of this country a lot. And there are surprisingly wonderful people in America who agree with that, including some of the victims' families from 9/11. They want Afghanistan to make a go of it and do well. They don't want America to continue to persecute you all. So I'm hoping working together, I've got lots of projects I'd love to do with Afghanistan, and I hope working together we can help make the world a better place. So my mum, who is looking down on us, you know, she'll strike me dead if I don't do it, so I'll have to.
As you here in Afghanistan, how do you see Afghanistan in this kind of situation?
Well, I mean, I was here in Afghanistan when the Americans were here, and it was a violent country. It was dangerous. I didn't like coming here. I was here just to help Asad Haroon, one of the prisoners in Guantanamo. It's a very different country now. It's totally safe. I mean, your lovely people insist sometimes that I should have security guards. I don't need security guards in Afghanistan. I need them in Texas. So I think you've made great strides in this country. You know, there are obviously things we sometimes disagree on. As a Westerner, I'm a big fan of women's rights. But at the same time, I don't think it's my place to force those issues or try to force those issues on your government. I think what we need to do is work together towards the benefits of all members of society. And I hope your cricket team comes, and I hope some of your Afghan players will play on my cricket team, and that we can be friends instead of enemies.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clive. These were all my questions. So if something left from me, could you share with me regarding Aafia Siddiqui?
You know, that's a very bad question to ask a lawyer, because if you ask a lawyer if he's got anything more to say, I can go on for days. I do plan to publish all of the evidence I have for Aafia. It'll make a fabulous book and a fabulous movie, but it's all so crazy. But I think you've probably got all you need for today.
Thank you so much for your time and valuable insights.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching this program.